Now that's a step. So they are beginning to engage us on how to implement this law. So it's not just about charity. It's not just about So it starts with that law in the first place, then creating that ministry. Because this thing has to be done, and it has to be done right. Otherwise, you end up creating more problem, to the society and for persons with disability. And if you look at all the Millennium Development Goals, it affects persons with disability the most. And if you're really interested in, addressing the issue of poverty, if you can address the people who form a larger chunk of poverty, I think that's like, AOC, like they say area of, in school then.
Concentration. Dairo, listening to you talk, I think I'm quite sure the same with my colleagues. We just don't want to even let you stop, because I think you touch on almost every aspect of it, and it's not too good a commentary for us as a nation and as a people, to the extent that the only time that most people would want to show some kind of concern towards people living with disabilities is when they relate it to charity, as if, well, that is all that it is. Now, we're drawing inspiration for what we've seen so far from the Paralympic Games, which is very fantastic, and people are so excited about it. Now we're getting to also know from you, as well as some others, that truly they don't get the kind of bite or push they get to give to other athletes. Now, from sports, now we have taken it to a larger sphere of our national life, away from Lagos. Now, the Lagos experience, which you say, well, is showing some kind of glimmer in this whole talk. What can we do as a nation? Because when you talk about ministry, let's forget about the ministry, because already we thought that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and even Development should be able to cater for these people in our society, because if we further say let's have a ministry, the whole essence of inclusion will be defeated, because now we want to incorporate everyone to be part and parcel of the same.
Well, I think as a people, as a country, as a nation, I think one way we could all start doing something is let's be concerned. First, the reality that if you live to be 80 years, you would most likely spend about 15 or 20 of those 80 years as a person with disability, because age will catch up with you, and as age does, some of your body mechanisms would not be as they used to be. So you most likely find yourself in that category. So if only for that, maybe you want to start looking at the issue of disability more seriously. That's on one thing. So, and for a whole lot of parents who have children with disability, don't hide them. Encourage them.
And some parents hide them.
They do. Let me just put it modestly at that. A lot of parents do, hide out of embarrassment, and and it's sincerely, in fairness to parents, it's more expensive raising a child with disability, especially in an environment like that. So that would be a good place to start. And I think the corporate organizations could be more forthcoming here. And I think another way they could do this, look, the idea of CSR. I think it's high time they start having a rethink about CSR in Nigeria. CSR does not necessarily need to be an entirely corporate thing. It could be a developmental thing. What do I mean by that? Last year, a friend of mine, we did a concept note, and an international agency that doesn't have an office in Nigeria gave £20,000 grant for a project just by meeting the criteria of that concept note. And by the time you go through that concept note, there is no way you can execute that project from your sleep. So now, CSR in Nigeria can take that approach too, and from corporate bodies, engage the people who really are involved in this issue. MTN, for example, has one of their CSR focus on disability, you know, rather than see it largely as a corporate thing where they just go through an agent and all that, they could engage the people who are really in it through avenues like this, and they would get their results at the end of the day, and it will really make impact. I think that's a good way, well, all of us can start getting involved.
You know, I was looking at your body, and I was wondering, does it cover, do you have to be a member of the body for you to, you know, be able to get involved in these activities, or does your body go out to actively seek people who are disabled to also bring their plight, you know, forward?
Well, GNPD is the umbrella body. By a UN recognition, there are 6 cluster groups of persons with disability: the blind, the deaf, the spinal cord injured, the physically challenged, and Down syndrome. There are 6 of them. So
also the physically challenged is actually a group by itself.
You know, it's an umbrella body that encompasses, you know, yes, that's the mistake people make when you say physically challenged.
Yes,
it doesn't cover everybody.
They think you're talking about people with disabilities.
No,
then.
Because if you say physically challenged, a deaf person is not physically challenged. He's here. You don't see his problem. You don't know his. So if you're talking about physically challenged, you probably not take care of his own concern.
Yeah, but they should all come under an umbrella, don't they?
So that's GNPD, persons with disabilities. That's the term. So persons with disability is not a derogatory thing. It's acceptable. I'm living with disability, but I'm not disabled because I have abilities within me. So that's also what we're telling society. So you don't need to just own up to it, identify with the organization, come to us, and we partner with a whole number of organizations.
What about schools? I mean, universities, for instance, because one would think that they should know better in terms of how they relate with such persons. And so, do we have any such programs in terms of the environment, the programs, policies?
Well, we're still facing the same issue of ignorance and maybe a little bit of wickedness here.
Oh.
For example, I finished from Obafemi Awolowo University. When I was in school, there is a hall at the postgraduate. There's a block at the postgraduate hall. From inception, from design, that place was meant for persons with disability. I stayed in that hall. It had ramps. The toilets are specially constructed that you can wheel in your chair and use the conveniences there, you know. But as I speak with you today, the vice chancellor, the management of that school has taken it away from persons with disability and allocated it to other students. So there's no special. There isn't that kind of treatment for persons with disability anymore in OAU as I speak with you.
Wow.
You know.